It's safe to say Marvel has not been reaching its full potential recently. Maybe you think it's because of identity politics, lousy writing, or maybe a bit of both.
Probably a little bit of both.
But there's definitely something in the water over at Marvel Studios. The fandom's at an all-time low, audiences are divided more than ever, and the overwhelming number of projects are nothing but underwhelming. And it's crazy to think that this is supposed to be the redemption arc for Marvel.
2025 is the return of 3 Marvel movies per year.
So who does Marvel turn to in their most desperate hour? Okay, not Robert Downey Jr. No, not Daredevil. No, not Deadpool either. Who else but the star-spangled man with a plan can lead Marvel back into success? So it's fitting that the first major Marvel movie of the year is none other than Captain America 4. Wait, does Captain America look different, or did Steve get a haircut? Following the major success that was the Falcon and the Winter Soldier television series,
You've got to do better, Senator.
Sam Wilson is back and ready for the big screen to follow up the true success of Deadpool and Wolverine in this all-new, kick-ass, epic social commentary. Captain America: Brave New World. What could possibly go wrong? This film is the perfect example of everything that's wrong with Marvel. The film, at its best, is uninspired. And, at its worst, it's the most painfully forgettable, horrendously looking, tediously clunky, nothing burger of a film. It doesn't know what it is, it doesn't know what it wants, and it doesn't know what to be. Giving me the inclination that the true writers are Mrs. Harrison's insecure 6th grade class.
Gentlemen, tell you what, not just tear out that page, tear out the entire introduction. I want it gone. History. Leave nothing of it.
This film is a pseudo-sequel to the much-beloved 2008 Incredible Hulk movie, revolving the plot around an event that happened in 2021's critically acclaimed Eternals, starring everybody's favorite side character as the main protagonist, who uses technology from Ant-Man and Black Panther. Did I mention he even has wings and Captain America's shield?
How exciting.
And if that sounded like a word salad that made no sense, that's because it is. There are so many moving pieces here from tons of different films, yet nothing ever happens. I know that the Marvel Universe is supposed to feel cohesive, but this is not how you go about that. It's like a child playing with their toys who thinks it'd be cool if that random Lego they never play with suddenly gets all the attention, and then realizes soon after why he decided to never play with it in the first place.
I don't want to play with you anymore.
Anyway, the celestial entity from Eternals is discovered to have the most valuable resource on Earth, known as adamantium. So, of course, every global superpower, and Japan for some reason, thinks that they have claim to this resource for their country. And the newly elected US President, Thaddeus Ross, the guy from when Marvel movies were good, decides to foster a deal between all these countries that'll divide the resources fairly and equally for all. But the deal fails when Isaiah Bradley tries to assassinate the president and seemingly has his memory wiped, leading Sam to think he was mind controlled, starting an investigation to prove his innocence, and thus the movie happens. So it turns out that Samuel Stearns,
Who?
the one obscure character from a movie that nobody watched 20 years ago, was the one pulling the strings the whole time. It's supposed to be a huge shock, but I guarantee most of the people were left confused at who the hell this guy even was. Apparently, after the events of the Incredible Hulk movie, he turned into a genius mastermind whose ugly forehead allowed him to calculate probabilities and always leave him one step ahead. Except, he's almost never right about anything and is constantly surprised at how his plans never work, once again proving that characters are only as smart as the writers. And in this case, as per usual, not so much. Apparently he's out for revenge after a deal with Ross went wrong. Stearns was supposed to help Ross with his failing heart, and in exchange, he'd get released from prison when Ross becomes president. And for some reason, that's never explained, Ross just doesn't ever follow through with his side of the deal, even though there was practically no harm in doing so. So in order to get back at Ross, Stearns does in fact use mind control, which at times picks and chooses when to work, to get back at Ross and ruin his reputation, causing the US to be on the brink of war. So of course, Sam and the new Falcon, whose name you just can't remember, and the tiniest, shortest girl you could think of have to stop Stearns from being even dumber, and also stop the potential war between the US and Japan. Right. But then a senile Gustavo Fring shows up too for some reason, just to have another clunky action sequence, and then never shows up again. Like the writers had to scrape together some BS plot points to make sense of his inclusion from a previous version of the film. Anyway, war is avoided, and the film cuts to Sam Wilson just chilling at a park, not at the important speech from the president about a crisis that he helped defuse. And that's when Stearns shows up and willingly lets himself get arrested, because that's all according to his plan. Apparently, now this is a big surprise that totally wasn't shown in any of the promotional material, he gave Ross some pills that turns him into the Red Hulk.
No way!
So Sam, being a regular guy with no powers, is the one that has to stop him, of course. And in the most horrendously looking 2-minute CGI fight ever, the White House is destroyed, and Sam Wilson stops the Red Hulk by talking to him.
Hey, big guy. Sun's getting real low.
That's right. The superhero movie climax ends with a conversation, because that's what everybody wants.
We? Who's we?
Ross then goes to prison, everybody lives happily ever after, and the movie ends. That's it. The overall film feels disjointed, like we're just dropped into the story with no real introduction or conclusion. We, the audience, have to make our own explanation to fill the gaps in between the last time we saw these characters and where they are now. Something's missing here. There's also no story arc or emotional journey for Sam Wilson, probably because that already happened in his show already, and so he's just present in this movie, much like we are. He's along for the ride. The new Falcon isn't given much to do. Giancarlo's character has nothing going for him, and the only interesting thing about the little girl is how she's able to defeat grown-ass guys when she's 4'10". The only character development is given to Ross, which of course Harrison Ford plays very well. He's the best thing about the movie outside of the brief cameo from Bucky. It just doesn't feel like a Captain America movie. It doesn't have any of the deep, thought-provoking themes, intense action sequences, gripping antagonist, and definitely doesn't have the star power. No offense to Anthony Mackie. He did an alright job with his performance and what he was working with, but he just doesn't have the lead presence needed for Captain America. That's the biggest challenge when passing the mantle to someone who was originally cast as a side character. They were cast for that specific role and were great in that role, but when you take him out of it, it doesn't work the same. They definitely wanted you to see him as Captain America though, with the way every single character constantly reaffirmed that notion to the point where it became so noticeable. They even called Isaiah Bradley Captain America, so now there's like 4 caps we have to keep track of. Like, I might as well be Captain America.
No.
Side note, his suit gets a huge downgrade too, and they make it look more like the OG Captain America suit. But it was unnecessary and does more harm than good to his character. It brings back the comparison to him and Steve Rogers. Story-wise, if they were going to go down this route as Captain America Sam Wilson, they needed to heavily distinguish the differences between Steve and Sam. Make him more relatable to the everyday American-made man in ways that Steve Rogers never could be. A man with a family to protect, which was something they were kind of doing in his show before, much to their credit. But that's nowhere to be found here. He's also way out of his league as someone who has 0 powers going up against the Red Hulk and even most of the other fight sequences. Comparing the action to other Captain America movies just shows you how pathetically slow this one is, even with all the technology Sam is equipped with. There's so much intricate detail that just flies by you in just a few seconds here, whereas Sam can't even handle his ground with practically any other guy in the movie and only wins because of plot armor. He even tanks 2 stabbings as a regular guy. And who thought it was a good idea for him to go up against the Hulk? And why was Red Hulk built up to be some big mystery? The whole movie's climax, the whole journey of the movie, hinged on that being a surprise, teasing it throughout the film as if we didn't know Ross was going to be the Red Hulk. But they showed it off in all of the posters and merchandise. The entire final fight is practically in the trailer, which if you've seen, you've pretty much seen the whole movie. And if you're wondering about the post-credit scene, that was also the most vague open-ended nothing burger teaser ever. Stearns is pretty much like,
I see it in the probabilities that more villains are to come.
no duh, Sherlock. One look at the gross profit of the franchise, and I could tell you that too. Also, mini nitpick, but no iconic Marvel fanfare. I guess they're moving away from the legacy of classic Marvel to carve out something new, but it just doesn't hit the same. Like many other MCU projects recently, they just don't hit the same. For reasons I've stated before. At its core, there was no direction with this film, no real story, and no thought put into it. And the same could be said for the MCU recently. That's what's destroying the franchise. Poorly written, disjointed stories. This film was an attempt to put some of the pieces of the puzzle together, but failed miserably at that. It's a cheap amalgamation of much better films, without a unique, thought-provoking plot. With countless reshoots, several rewrites, and tons of production issues, it was dead upon arrival. There's no wonder it was such a disaster. Sure, there's other opportunities for redemption, with the upcoming Daredevil, Thunderbolts, and Fantastic Four, but to me, Captain America: Brave New World is a clear sign that Marvel still hasn't found their way. They're still indulging in their destructive tendencies, and one or two good projects here and there won't outweigh the garbage they've been making. If anything, it'll only encourage them even more. Without learning from or acknowledging their failures, they can't improve their films. And the only thing we, the audience, can do is push back against the machine. Stand up for what we believe in, and don't back down. Much like Captain America would do.
I can do this all day.